tackle Tyler Smith with the 24th pick last night. Now, before the draft, remember Jerry Jones said Dallas could do something, quote, unconventional with their selection. Last night, he spoke about how happy he is with the result.
We knew we were in the wheelhouse there, and so we had a very clear, it's about as clear of on the board decision that I've seen, a unanimous decision in the room, that when he came to us and we had the pick to take him. Let me put it like this. We have both of them, this was printed 3 days ago, below him. Both of those players are below him. Can you see that?
Don't show him that.
I'm not going to show him.
Jerry's showing off the secret draft board there. Shannon, you buying what Jerry Jones is selling?
No. Jerry turned the press conference and all about him, but Skip, look, I'm going to be very sensitive to Jerry. I just think right now things are not progressing mentally as well as they should. Skip, you can't show that. You see what Skip, they look like, I know he's not. And Steven like, that. Jerry, don't know.
Put that thing down. That's what Steven said. Put that thing down.
First of all, no, I don't buy it. Because, Skip, everything that I had seen up until this point, he was ranked somewhere in the 40s on everybody's.
Kuiper had him 33, but go ahead. Yeah.
33, that was the earliest.
Yeah.
But in the 40s, I think Daniel Jeremiah had him at like 42. I've seen some publications had him in the 50s.
Okay.
So
I don't doubt it.
Let's just say, okay, let's split the difference. We'll say he's like high 30s, maybe even low 40s.
Okay.
You take him at 24. If you're going to take an offensive lineman, Skip, I'll take Tyler Linderbaum. Because if you think about it.
I agree. Out of Iowa, a center.
And your run game hadn't been the same since who retired, Skip?
Thank you. That guy who was
Travis
a first-round pick.
Yes.
Who was a just perennial Pro Bowler.
Yes.
Watch Linderbaum. Watch what happens. You just know he'll be a perennial plug and play.
Yes.
First year, just watch. He'll start making Pro Bowls. Go ahead.
You're exactly right. The Skip, Jared says, well, we're not going to take guys with red flags. What about yellow flags? Because this guy was flagged 16 times last year. 12 of them for holding. The Cowboys, the most penalized offensive line in football. Now,
the most penalized team.
Team in football,
yes,
excuse me.
Thank you.
Skip. And the offensive line was penalized more than any other offensive line.
Absolutely.
Now, you got tired of Connor Williams.
By the way, just a quick point on your 16. You realize he had 16 flags, did Tyler Smith at Tulsa in 12 games. If you took the 16 and projected into the 17 NFL games season,
right,
that would lead the league.
Yes.
Even at 17 games, it would lead the league. Go ahead.
And that's the thing, Skip. I just believe you reach. Now, if you didn't want Linderbaum, the center, that you can plug in and help your run game, because, Skip, then you were strong at all points.
Yeah.
You had Ty Smith, you had Zach Martin, and you had Frederick. Zeke was running up and down. Everybody, Zeke, the best running back in football. We can't stop Zeke. Zeke getting 5 yards a clip. Zeke was getting skipped 3 yards before anybody even touched him.
True.
Once Travis Frederick retired, look at Zeke's stats the moment that man announced his retirement, and go back and look at Zeke's stats, and you tell me what you see. Okay, you don't want Linderbaum.
It's the least sexy position in the line, but it's the anchor.
And it's the easiest position to skip.
And usually it's the quarterback. You make the calls on the projections, but go ahead.
And if you look at it, Skip, look at all the centers that's been taken in the first round. Those guys play. They played a long time. Creed Humphrey came in and was one of the better centers for Kansas City last year.
University of Oklahoma.
Came in right in and made the offense, solidified the offensive line.
Did he make the Pro Bowl?
No, he was. I think he first.
But he was all rookie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Skip, and if you didn't like the offensive lineman, the Florida State, the edge rusher, Jermaine Johnson. Now, Skip, the kid started at Georgia. Lets you know how talented they are. Now, Georgia had 5 guys, 3 or 4 of them on the defensive line.
He couldn't get on the field enough at Georgia. No shame there.
No shame there.
You just saw why.
Most in NFL history, 5 defensive players take. And they got another one, 88. I think his last name is Carter, who's probably going to be a first rounder next year.
Probably.
Skip, he was right there because
so Jermaine Johnson's second. He goes to Florida State.
You get an opportunity to get somebody to replace Randy Gregory. Now, all of the marks that I saw, it's like he's a combination of Walker and Hutchinson. He has the twitchiness, but he has the hands and the technique of Hutchinson, but he has the twitchiness of a Walker. Sitting right there for you, Jerry. Now, Skip, for him to fall like he did, maybe there's some flags that we don't know about because he fell, he tumbled.
Mel had him at 11 on his big board.
Yes.
11, and he was a top 10-ish pick by all accounts.
Yes. And he goes to, 26? He goes all the way down to 26.
2 picks after, 26.
26 to the Jets, which is a great situation. Robert Saleh knows how to work that D line.
Yep.
They know how to work with the guy, Skip. But and plus, Jerry, like, he is young, Skip. He just turned 21 this month. He was suspended for the season opener this year because of a brawl that happened the previous bowl game.
In the bowl game.
Yeah. He hadn't played a lot of football. He had a disease called blunt disease, where they had to break his legs and recap.
Makes you bow-legged. Yep.
So they re-broke him, put him in a cast, and so he didn't get a whole lot of offers. Had an opportunity. Abilene Christian chose Tulsa, but Skip, I thought Jerry and them reached. I thought a safer situation would have been the center out of Iowa, or you could have got the guy. You could have got the guy from Florida State. And Iowa, that's one thing they produce offensive linemen.
They do. They usually work for a long, good time.
Marshall Yandy, who's going to the Hall of Fame, was a Raven and came out of that system.
Bingo. And the Ravens got Linderbaum.
Yeah.
Okay. And the Ravens know pretty much what they're doing, right?
Yes.
And by the way, Kyle Hamilton, he was born to be a safety for the Ravens out of Notre Dame, but that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah.
Now for my Dallas Cowboys. But before I launch on this, I got to give Jerry some props here, because I told you yesterday we had the one stat from 2010 to 2020.
Yes.
Only the Kansas City Chiefs drafted more Pro Bowlers than Jerry Jones. And I'm going to give him credit, because I always give him blame. The final say rests in the lap of one Gerald Wayne Jones Jr.
Yes.
So obviously, do you think he watched a lot of Tulsa tape?
Skip,
I don't think so.
Skip, the first time that list that Jerry held up, the first time he saw it was last night.
Okay.
That was the first time he saw that list.
I don't doubt that. But I got one more stat before I launch.
Okay.
Over the last 26 seasons, Jerry Jones' Dallas Cowboys in the draft have accounted for 139 Pro Bowl selections by people they drafted, players they drafted, more than any other NFL team.
Yes.
So you got to give him some credit before I drop all the hammer of blame on his head last night.
Well, then you should be even more upset that you drafted that many Pro Bowl players and you've got nothing to show for it.
What did I tell you yesterday? It's Jerry's country club culture. There's no fear factor. There's no intensity. There's no urgency instilled in those players.
Right.
And you have to have a quarterback. And it can't be Tony Romo. And I'm starting to have my doubts about the fourth-round pick that's now playing quarterback, because he hasn't been able to live up to $75 million that he was paid last year. So that's the problem. Your pipeline of talent is extraordinary, and it gets you 4 playoff wins in 26 years. Really?
Right. Okay.
And no more NFC championship games in 26 years. You know the story.
Yes.
Okay. Now back to last night. So I'm sitting and I'm watching and I'm praying and I'm trying to be patient, and I'm watching Jermaine Johnson fall, and I'm saying, really? What's the problem?
Right.
And I'm reading everything on the fly that I can. I didn't watch much Florida State, but every time I did, I saw him, because he's just a flat-out stud.
Yes.
He rushes easy, effortless, where we just say, he's just better than those guys are.
Right.
Okay, and as you say, Georgia pipeline, and there's a reason he was at Florida State, but he was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. You just know what you know what you're going to get. So it's falling. But what did Mel Kiper have in his final mock draft? He had Tyler Smith going to Dallas. You can't tell me that he didn't have some inside info, which should validate to you that Jerry and company are sitting on Tyler Smith. They sat all week. We got our diamond in the rough. We got our answer to Connor Williams, another swing and miss for Jerry in the second round, who, by the way, led the league in penalties last year. So help me out. You're going to replace the guy who led the league in individual penalties last year with the guy who would have led the league in penalties with one more. He had 16 to Connor Williams' 15, but his were in 12 games at Tulsa.
Exactly.
You're kidding. So what did they just do? They sat right there. We're good, because we know something nobody else knows. And look at our draft board. We have him all the way up at 16. So what Jerry was trying to demonstrate is that at 15, the Houston Texans took Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M, who's more of a guard. And then at 17, the Chargers took Zion Johnson out of Boston College. And so Jerry's saying we had Tyler Smith ranked above those two, went 15 and 17. And at 24, we stole Tyler Smith. Well, right under your nose that went right past you was Jermaine Johnson. When you, to your point, you just blew it and you lost your pass rusher, your pure pass rusher, the Randy Gregory that you stole in the second round, And just because it's some silly clause, and the more I look at it, it gets sillier by the day because it's a clause that has been in every Cowboy contract that has never been enforced before.
Right.
And over that, you let him go to the Broncos?
Right.
You're kidding. It wasn't over money. It was over one little clause. Right. Okay, you lost a kid in Randy Gray. He's still a kid to me, who he's pretty good. Like we agreed. He's a second-tier pass rusher.
Yeah.
He's not in that J.J. Watt, T.J. Watt.
Yeah,
top.
no,
He's not that guy. But he's pretty good.
Right.
And Micah, they refused to line him up much as an edge rusher,
Right.
so he's going to be all over the place. And you still got the big guy over on the other side. Yep. But you need this guy. You strengthen your strength, because the reason they were pretty good for about 2/3 of the year last year was the defense just flipped on its head in the offseason. As Mike McCarthy said, I've never seen a unit improve as much as our defense did over the offseason. I buy that. That's why they were back in business, because 11 from heaven was Micah Parsons. By the way, what number at Florida State did Jermaine Johnson? He wore 11.
Yep.
He couldn't wear 11 if you draft him with Dallas. He'd have to go to something else. But
well, you can't get 12 because that's retired.
That's retired.
So I guess you have to go to 13 and drop down to 9.
I almost said 12. And then
Well,
I
you
thought,
can't get that. Well, Tony Romo, I guess Jerry might not give him that one.
well, whatever. I'd take it. I'd do it. But
Skip, I agree. See, here's the thing, Skip. I agree with you. You're talking about a guy, you look at Michael Parsons. Michael Parsons is a guy that you don't really have to scheme for. You just say, son, go get the quarterback. And he can beat most guys one-on-one. Well, you get somebody on the other side that can go get the quarterback.
yeah, now you got something.
Now you got something.